That's kind of the good and the bad news, is that these aren't typically long-lasting, but you don't need a long-lasting tornado to cause some major issues. If you do not have a basement, and particularly if you are on the central part of Fort Wayne, southeast side, again, right along Meyer Road, headed towards New Haven, if you don't have a basement, the next best place is an interior hallway or a closet. Closet's probably preferred. And although some may consider it silly, wrapping yourself in blankets, helmets, they're always a good option there, just to protect your body, protect your head. That's another good piece of information to have, particularly if you don't have the luxury of a basement that allows you to go to a very low level below the ground. We're going to go back to correlation coefficient to see if we're getting any signals of any debris being lofted. Again, there are some brighter colors that we're noticing in and around New Haven, but nothing that would necessarily indicate a tornado touchdown, not at this point, but that's what we're continuing to watch. We are noticing some of these brighter colors right kind of where we're seeing potentially some rotation. Again, this is kind of near Sunnymead, Adams Center Road, just right along 930. So just as you're entering New Haven, there's the Kroger there, Papa John's on the opposite side. This is kind of the direction that's headed. At this point, this is probably the most convincing sign that we've seen that there could potentially be a reason to believe that a tornado may develop. But the National Weather Service, as they've updated this tornado warning, still maintain it as radar indicated. Again, with this being nighttime, it's difficult to say for sure. We have a couple different tools that we use to try to cancel out certain options here as to determining one way or the other if it may have touched down. But the best we can do is just assume that any tornado warning is capable of producing something that does touch down, right? So head to an interior room, closet, bathroom, basement. That's where you want to be here if you are in the path of that tornado warning. Let's go back again to the warning map. I want to zoom out a little bit so you can see for yourself. I'm actually going to take off the sweeping radar too so you can see a little clearer. This really encompasses the east side of Fort Wayne. So downtown Fort Wayne, no longer in the tornado warning. Now, this is primarily moving through New Haven and headed north and east toward Payne, Ohio. Antwerp also kind of in the path there. If I turn on the sweeping radar again, you can see that the storm in question, I would say, is still probably about 10 minutes away from the Ohio state line. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little storm tracker on this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this for how fast it's moving. It's moving at 65 miles per hour. So this is not taking its time. It is moving through quite quickly. So as it moves north and east, it will likely be in Antwerp at about 11:47. So yeah, I mean, I said about 10 minutes. It looks like about 10 minutes as it heads into northwest Ohio, Maumee, Antwerp, Edgerton. Those are the places that I would expect would be, again, in the path of this tornado warning within the next 10 minutes. There's always a good news, kind of bad news situation sometimes with these situations. The good news is it is a quick-moving storm, and the rotation does seem to be quite broad, but nonetheless, the bad news is it is nighttime. It's difficult to confirm one way or the other. All we can really point to are just some signs from our radar tools as to what may be occurring. Again, I'm going back to the debris signature map, not seeing anything really major at this point, anything super concerning outside of maybe a bit of hail. Back to the velocity signatures. Fortunately, it looks like I am seeing some improving signs. Well, not quite. I mean, I suppose if we go to the east of, let's see, this would be the Maplewood Park subdivision, Hacienda Village. There could still be some broad rotation here, but of anything from the National Weather Service that would confirm it one way or the other. I think the best thing to keep in mind, too, is that even if a tornado were not to touch down, we still are seeing some of these very bright kind of pink and red colors. We're seeing velocity signatures of about 53 to 45. But again, some of the brighter signatures, there you go, just north of downtown New Haven, we're at 62 miles per hour. So still verifying what we had kind of feared is that the wind gusts could exceed 60, and certainly in places that's exactly what's happening. All right, I'm going back to the radar here. I'm going to zoom out so you can get a kind of a better view of what's happening. I would expect, again, over the next several hours, that if there's going to be a tornado risk that continues over the next couple of hours, it would likely end up being within this line that's going through Grant County and heading towards Wells County, only because as I'm seeing this line move through, it has some kinks and notches in it that could potentially bring a little bit of a rotation within that line. So that's what we're going to continue to watch pretty carefully. I was handed a note that the power is out at Coldwater and Washington Center. Not necessarily surprising, particularly given what we know and what we've heard here at the station. We had power hits a couple different times, strong wind, heavy rain on the west side of Fort Wayne, and of course that just continues at a rapid rate, about the speed of that you would go on the interstate. I mean, that is how quickly these storms are moving. So again, part of the good news is they're not lingering over one place for too long. But we do have the National Weather Service continues that tornado warning, and this is for Allen County heading toward Paulding County with some very strong wind right along US 24 now. That's what we're watching, headed toward Woodburn. You are actually right on that edge of seeing some of those stronger wind speeds of about 50 to 60 miles per hour. But again, as we take a look at the velocity signature, one of our bigger concerns would be seeing any rotation, potential issues there. At this point, what we're seeing is that any signatures that we were seeing earlier that could have been a little more conducive do appear to be somewhat flattening out, except just north of the city of New Haven, just to the east of Wheelock and Stellhorn. So we're on Stellhorn Road here, between Stellhorn and Shorts. There are some pretty convincing signals of high wind at the very least. And what we're talking about is potentially close to 70 miles per hour. This again would be right just to the east of Wheelock Road, more towards Stellhorn and Schwartz, just in New Haven. That's what we would expect could be one of the bigger threats, of course, along with this tornado warning that's in effect, that could be producing some lower level rotation, although a lot of the different products that we're looking at right here don't necessarily confirm that, but the potential is there because the warning was issued for a reason. There are some signals showing that potential nonetheless.
So, Matt, I want to go ahead and jump in here real quick. One of the tools that we use is our shear analysis. I'm going to take over the radar real quick here. See if that flipped the switch there. So you see this little dark area of blue actually just moved to the north of New Haven, probably closer to the Meijer, Walmart, Menards, I believe, out there on the northeast side of Fort Wayne. That little dark blue spot there is another indication that we've got some rotation in the atmosphere, and it sort of lines up with what we're seeing on the velocity and on the radar as well. There's that bright spot right near Milan Center, and then as well on the radar product, that's where we're starting to see some heavier of those yellows and those oranges produce. So that's another tool that it gives us an indication that, we're actually seeing some rotation in the atmosphere here.
Well, thank you. And what that tells us too, that bright spot, broad or upper level rotation certainly possible, but also just strong wind speeds. So it's difficult to tell you exactly at what level of the atmosphere we're talking about in terms of these strong wind speeds, but there's indications that we're getting close to 70 miles per hour. And should that reach the surface, we're talking about some potentially significant damage. Wind events can be as dangerous as tornado events in this regard. Straight line wind damage is something this, especially the west side of Fort Wayne, just last year had to endure. So that's kind of one of the signatures and things that we're seeing right now, headed toward Harlan here at about 65 miles per hour. There is a new tornado warning now issued for Allen County, Indiana, and heading toward Defiance and Paulding. So what we're going to do is head back to the warning map so you can see it. Again, this is on the northeast side of Fort Wayne. This includes Harlan and headed toward Defiance County, Hicksville area. Okay, so this is just east of Grable. Grable is not included in this tornado warning, but the severe thunderstorm warning, of course, still applies for the next about 20 minutes. But looking at, once again, one of the many products that we have, we like to try to see what it is that may be conducive for that continued warning. And I imagine it's just like what Caleb mentioned. Not only do we have evidence of decent wind shear, but also velocity signature showing some very strong wind. We are seeing, look at that, the debris signature. Just north of Milan Center, off Trammell Road and 37.
I'm admittedly a little skeptical of that.
Okay.
Just because typically when we see debris in these situations, it's closer to that blue color
right.
than the white. But that doesn't mean that's necessarily the case, that it's not debris. So,
well, and like you said, to be fair, we noticed something similar to that just south of, it was in Frankfurt,
Yes.
Indiana, and we've got no reports yet that there had been any tornado touchdowns there. We would have known by now if that had been the case. So you're right, Caleb. I mean, that is not the brightest of colors. That this could be a variety of things, but still, when you see these kind of pop up, it does make you question and wonder, especially given the very strong wind speeds that we're noticing here, anywhere between 60 to 70 plus miles per hour. But you're right, Caleb. Because it's nighttime, it's just difficult to confirm. And until we do have some sort of confirmation, all we can really say is that these cells are capable of producing a tornado.
And that's the unfortunate part, like you mentioned, is that this is happening at nighttime. We would not encourage any of you to try to go outside and look to see what's going on, even if it were just a severe thunderstorm warning.
Right.
So if you're in one of these polygons, my suggestion is to get to your safe spot until these storms roll through.
Yeah, this is a good idea, a good look now of all the various warnings. I'm actually going to put the radar back a little bit so you can just see them all. There are 2 active tornado warnings on the east side of Allen County headed toward Paulding and Defiance County. There's another quite large tornado warning from southern Wabash to Huntington counties. Now, I will say, taking the, the radar back on for this particular storm, or this map here. Okay, I would imagine here that we're going to be seeing, oh, there it is. I was just going to say we should see an expiration of the tornado warning. Sure enough, the National Weather Service has expired the tornado warning for Wabash and Huntington counties. That is good news. I wasn't really seeing a whole lot of evidence for that continued warning, so it's good that there was some action taken on that. Again, on the east side of Fort Wayne, I think that the biggest thing that we're continuing to watch is what's moving through Harlan right now, right along near Tremmel Road, where we noticed a signature that seemed to suggest not just high wind, but maybe some large hail. It's certainly possible that we're seeing more than just strong wind. And on the east side of Allen County, heading into portions of northwest Ohio, like the northwestern portion of Paulding County. To the west, like Columbia City, Kendallville, still dealing with quite a bit of strong wind. But to the east of Kendallville, that severe threat appears at this point, likely, and for the rest of the night, to be over. If you are west of Kendallville and west of Columbia City, that severe weather threat is over. We're looking at mostly just rain and some strong wind. The focus is now south and east of Fort Wayne and into northwest Ohio, but also into southern Huntington County and toward Wells County. Just because the tornado warning has been canceled for these areas does not mean a severe thunderstorm warning isn't still in effect. And again, we've mentioned before, these high winds can sometimes be just as dangerous or damaging as tornadoes. And so it's worth continuing to just, again, try to stay in an interior room. A basement is ideal because of these very strong winds and of course, what they are capable of.
I'm going to chime in here
real
quick, Matt. If you're watching us on television or if you're watching us on mobile, I want you to take a listen real quick if you're in the tornado warning. Do you hear the tornado siren? Probably not, because you're inside your home. We've talked about that earlier in the newscast, and we talk about that every time we see tornado warnings, is that tornado sirens are not necessarily meant to be for indoor use if you're inside. It's meant to be for outside. And so you need to have multiple ways to make sure that you're receiving the alerts, whether it's the 21 Alive First Alert Weather app, or you've got us tuned in on your television or on Facebook to make sure you know when you need to go to the safe spot. You don't always want to rely on those tornado sirens.
Yeah, thank you, Caleb. We ran a couple different stories about that today, but it cannot be repeated enough. You need to have multiple ways to get warnings. We've been saying all day to download our weather app, primarily because you actually get very audible warnings telling you what's in store. So you can see the QR code there. Put your phone up next to the screen. You can download the First Alert 21 Alive Weather app, and you can see the warnings for yourself. We also post personalized videos on that app in which we update, especially in these kinds of situations, every few hours. Of course, when we can. At this moment, since we're tied up with tornado coverage, what you will still get are the tornado warning alerts, severe thunderstorm warning alerts. But again, the personalized videos come kind of outside of the normal tornado coverage. But you can also still see live streaming capabilities in the weather app and tune in there as well. So those are all really good reminders. But as Caleb mentioned, don't let the tornado siren be the only thing that prompts you to move or take action should a tornado warning be issued where you are. All right, let's take a look at the velocity signatures again and take a look at just kind of see how the situation's evolving just to the east of Harlan. The strongest part of this cell here still capable of producing some very strong wind. I'm still not receiving any reports or seeing any reports of. There you go. That's kind of broadened out a little bit. So, I mean, I'm seeing encouraging signs. Although the wind is still quite strong, any rotation that was there within that particular that part of the storm does seem to be, for lack of a better term, just kind of flattening out, not rotating quite as aggressively. That's kind of what we mentioned earlier, that in this kind of situation, you can see very quick spin-ups, and then they can, within minutes sometimes, go back to just kind of being primarily wind events. Farther to the south, we're still seeing some highlighted areas, some kind of brighter spots. This would be just to the northwest of Blackford County, southern Wells County, where we're seeing evidence of high wind. This would be probably about 50 to 60 miles per hour. Let me put one of our tools here on here to kind of estimate. Okay, yeah, 55 miles per hour, so that sounds about right, 58 miles per hour. So yeah, I would expect still pretty close to 60 mile per hour wind speeds for those southern counties. And we are being, did you see that, Caleb?
No.
Oh, okay. On NWS chat, we can sometimes get unconfirmed reports. We like to just wait for the National Weather Service to relay some after the fact messaging and information. But again, so far what we're seeing right now, we've had no confirmation really one way or the other of any tornado touchdowns. That could change. But at the present moment, let's go back to the warning. Okay. What we're still seeing is the tornado warning extending from essentially Harlan, although to be fair, the Harlan area, eastern Allen County, this cell is moving out now. So Harlan is in the clear. Right now, we're more looking at Hicksville. Within the next 5 to 10 minutes, this particular cell will be moving right over Hicksville, bringing some very strong wind with it. The rotating signature is looking a little less aggressive than it was earlier, but still, if you're under that tornado warning, you want to take cover. We want to make sure that you're heeding all of these warnings carefully. Just to give you an example of some of these wind reports, in Garrett, we have a ham radio operator saying about estimated 52 mile per hour wind gust in Garrett. So we're still seeing that range of about 50 to 60 miles per hour with some of these stronger gusts. With some of the signatures that we've seen indicating higher gusts, I would like to see confirmed reports. Again, I don't want to just run with data that hasn't been confirmed, but sometimes those strong bright signatures you might see, whether it's on the velocity map or our debris signature map, they could be other things, but they could also be elevated and not necessarily surface-based. So that's why we have to kind of be careful with how we word certain things, unless there are multiple ways in which something can be confirmed. There is a new severe thunderstorm warning for eastern DeKalb County. Let me take off the sweeping radar so it's a little easier for you to see. All right, let's go into the lightning. So much of northeast Indiana, essentially west or east of Columbia City, is under a severe thunderstorm warning. The newest one, though, extends from just east of Auburn up through Williams in northern Defiance County. We're getting several reports, sporadic power outages, reports of poles and lines down across the Fort Wayne area. Again, quite believable. We were on the west side when some of the strongest wind the station took a power hit as a result, with those wind gusts right around 60 miles per hour at least. And Skywarn spotters are headed toward Grable to check for damage. This was that one area we had highlighted and circled for the potential of a touchdown. When we had looked at that, we realized that could be a variety of things. Difficult to say exactly what, but that was our most suspicious place where something could have a touchdown. I want to bring you back to that debris signature map so you can kind of see what it is that we're talking about. Earlier, here we go. Yeah. When we see spikes, this is called correlation coefficient, and you can actually see it on right here on this product that we have. This is just to the south of Grable, more towards Harlan. But again, some of these brighter signatures indicate something that isn't rain that's been lofted up into the radar beam. Usually the broader, the more concerned we get of like structural damage. The more narrow, the more, it could be a variety of things, like maybe some tree limbs, branches, it could be hail. So again, it's very difficult to say, particularly at night. But we will continue to wait for confirmed reports. We don't have any yet. We cannot say one thing or another at this point. But we are getting, again, some... I'm reading the National Weather Service chat just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But this is what's, again, prompted the Skywarn spotters to head toward Grable, the Grable area at the very least, just right along 37. just in case, because this is one of those situations where we've got a signature of something. Something was there, and so it's worth checking out, and that's something we'll be able to have in a moment. Okay, the tornado warning for eastern Allen County into Paulding County, the National Weather Service has expired this warning. So this is the one that just moved just out of New Haven toward US 24 and into portions of Paulding County. That has been expired. And our weather system will react to that here shortly. Sometimes it takes a little bit for the system to register it as having expired. But that is just one less tornado warning that will be impacting the area here very shortly. You can see on the far left side of your screen, more lightning, clouds, rain. Right now, we're kind of focusing on the wind threat, which is really going to be the biggest and strongest threat here for the next couple of hours even though the severe weather threat is going to be coming to an end here shortly. It's the strong wind gusts associated with this low pressure system, this front that's moving through, that will continue to produce some very high wind. There are some various reports of a wind gust of 62 miles per hour. This would be within Allen County. And it looks like the National Weather Service has canceled this last tornado warning. This would effectively keep the tornado warning, if I understand this correctly, for the Antwerp area, northern Paulding County. But I do not expect, I do expect here very shortly to be able to see the tornado warning on the east side of Allen County expired. We have several severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, though. They continue to be in effect due to the very high wind associated with this front as this moves through. But I still expect the highest wind speeds to be right along the snaked line of storms. To the west, there's going to be a lot of lightning, a lot of rain, some strong wind, but the severe weather threat is essentially and effectively over to the west of Fort Wayne. Right now, the primary threat continues south and east of Fort Wayne and heading into northwest Ohio.
And Matt, I'm scrubbing through social media right now, and I can't really see anybody tweeting, posting, so on and so forth, etc., of anything confirmed. Obviously, we would never condone you going outside and trying to take a look. We would want to wait for the safest possible time to be able to do that. But yeah, I'm not really seeing anything on social media about that tornado warned storm in northeast Allen County.
Well, yeah, thank you for saying that. The National Weather Service chat room has been kind of getting some conflicting reports, as often happens in breaking news situations. There are some other outlets and sources that seem to be reporting some information that hasn't been confirmed, and so that can create a little bit of confusion. Of course, at this point, what we're doing is we're just simply telling you what we see, but we cannot confirm one thing or another until we get a little more information. What I will tell you is that it appears that what we have kind of witnessed here tonight have been some isolated areas of damage, perhaps into northeast Allen County. We've, of course, noticed a little signature on the southwest side of town in northeast Huntington County. These are areas that I'm sure we'll be able to reveal so much more during the daylight hours. Of course, should the damage be considerable enough, I imagine we probably would hear about it before sunrise. But nonetheless, I continue to monitor the National Weather Service chat area, which is where we get the confirmed reports. So we don't issue unconfirmed reports, and there have been plenty of them, primarily because, again, they haven't been confirmed. So as we zoom out, there is an active tornado warning, which continues for portions of Defiance County. You can see that was actually shaved off to portions of Allen County. This, for some reason, hasn't updated for eastern Allen County, but this has also been expired. There is a sliver of Paulding County that's under the tornado warning still, but that threat has also kind of moved on, now more toward downtown, central Paulding area, and that primarily is carrying with it some strong wind threat. All right, so again, the velocity signatures here showing, as I was just showing you earlier, that we're seeing this indication of about 50 to 60 mile per hour winds heading into Paulding County. Okay. There does seem to be a report here. Fire units dispatched to Indiana 37 at Rep Road on reports of vehicles blown off road and pulled down across road. That's really all the information that we have, but it does seem to appear that there are some emergency responders headed toward Indiana 37 along Rep Road. This is a classic situation of the danger of nighttime nocturnal storms that can produce tornadoes. They can produce also straight line damaging wind gusts. It doesn't take a tornado to produce life-threatening weather. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway from tonight. Tornadoes can touch down in a variety of scenarios and situations, but damaging wind gusts can also be quite dangerous. As we take a look at the radar scans again, let me zoom out here. The area of bigger concern for stronger wind would end up now being in Wells County, headed toward Adams County. And again, this system's moving quite quickly. I mean, we're talking about 65 miles per hour. And so Decatur at just a little after midnight, I mean, we're talking about the next 6 minutes, Bern at about 12:09, Van Wert 12:19, Salina at about 12:31. So really within the next 30 minutes, this is going to be out of the viewing area. One of the pros, I suppose, of a very fast progressive storm system. But it's also just a good example of how powerful the storm is, bringing these strong winds with it. We're still getting some more strong wind gusts here at the station. And even though the severe component of this storm system has pretty much ended on the west side of Fort Wayne, the winds associated with that low pressure system still alive and well. So that's why we still have to watch for those potential gusts. And I wanted to just show you this map here that kind of talks about some of these gusts. And they're going to be kind of all over the place depending on where certain thunderstorms and cells can kind of release more of that energy, those downdrafts that would produce some stronger gusts. But we're still looking at anywhere between 40 and exceeding 50 miles per hour here over the next couple of hours. We should see things calm down a little bit into early Saturday morning. But heading into the morning hours, we will likely end up actually seeing the potential for some stronger wind gusts. So just to keep that in mind, things will eventually calm down. But right now, what we're noticing is that the wind is still just ramping up, as it's going to continue to do with this front moving through. Strongest winds now north and east of Allen County into Paulding and Defiance counties. That feature, that signature that we were tracking not too long ago, that kind of moved through Hicksville, is now headed toward just north of Defiance. And that is still producing some very strong wind, as we've heard. Near Indiana 14 and West Allen County line, there was a measured at 11:55 measured wind report of 40 miles per hour. That's notable because what that tells us is that the wind speeds, again, west of Fort Wayne are significantly lighter than they were when the front moved through, and particularly east of the city. So again, while we're still noticing some pretty strong wind, some pretty prolific thunder, as you can no doubt hear, the wind speeds, while still roaring, do appear to be a little bit lighter. Nonetheless, power outages, tree limbs, trees down, those are all still concerns here tonight as we work through, as the system works through the area. There was the National Weather Service reports just 2 miles north of Kendallville, there was a thunderstorm wind gust of 68 miles per hour. This occurred at 11:55. Okay, and again, these bright, pink colors indicate potential wind speeds that high. Let's see. Oh, wait. Let me see. And there we go. Okay. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah. So we're, that the velocity scan's showing us, close to 60 here, but it does appear that there was again a measurement that did have about 68. Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay. So just north and east of Kendallville, you can see that there's a signature close to 70, and so that lines up pretty well. A train spotter also reported about 60 mile per hour wind speeds moving through Wells County, Bluffton area. So moving southward.
And Matt, I don't know if you see that area. Yep, you're zooming in on it right now. So that color is starting to get a little bit brighter over the past couple of minutes. I've been watching that area in southern Wells County, and it looks like it's just starting to tighten up a little bit and get a little bit brighter. No tornado warning on that storm, obviously, as you can see, but an area that we're certainly watching. Yep, just south of 218, south of Pinedo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is it Pinedo? Pinedo. It's a 50-50 chance, and I'm going to mess it up. But yeah, Pinedo, just south of Pinedo, that is where we're kind of, where we are noticing, it seems to kind of flatten out a little bit. Which is good news, but again, we have to continue to watch this. If there was going to be another tornado warning issued, it'd be likely in southern Wells County and perhaps even southern Blackford County, just north of Dunkirk.
there's just a signature there that shows that the potential would be there for at least broad rotation. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, just because we've had some tornado warnings get expired, particularly in Allen County, does not mean the overall tornado threat is over. As I've mentioned many times during this live tornado broadcast, my concern has always been this line that could, as I mentioned, have these little kinks, these little twists within the line of storms that could produce some brief rotation. And we are noticing some brief rotation. What's difficult to say is whether it's at surface level, or if it's upper level rotation. But nonetheless, it is being observed. The National Weather Service has the ultimate call on issuing warnings. But right now, they've issued another severe thunderstorm warning for Adams, Allen counties, Indiana, and then Putnam, Van Wert counties in Ohio. And taking a look at, let's see, sorry, I'm going to get to there we go, the warning map here. I just want to make sure I'm able to, there are so many warnings on here. I know it can be kind of hard to see, so I'm kind of taking off the radar image so you can see very clearly. Okay, so the new severe thunderstorm warning is just southeast of Monroeville and then toward Van Wert County. This is one that has potential of producing 70-mile-per-hour wind speeds. Now, we haven't had any reports up to that high yet, although, again, in the Kennelville area, we did have a thunderstorm wind gust report of 68 miles per hour, so we know that is possible here within these cells. And which you can see just into southeast Allen County, at least getting close to 60 at the very least. The warning indicates perhaps up to 70, and so that's something to at least keep in mind, that the potential is there for wind speeds to get that high. We're getting numerous reports coming in of trees down and some thunderstorm damage. Getting another report just as I speak. A report of a vehicle blown off road at State Road 37 and Webb Road. Fire department on scene. This was now a confirmed report of kind of a rumor that we had seen, but this seems to have been confirmed now that a vehicle had been blown off the road. Now, as to what's caused this, unsure at this point, likely the strong wind, but there were some signatures even in that area of perhaps some brief rotation. So that's why, it could be a variety of things, but we can't confirm one way or the other until the National Weather Service does. We have some indication that tornadoes touch down. But the biggest risk tonight has always been these very high winds that we continue to see blowing through the area and creating what has been quite a dangerous situation, primarily east of Allen County into northwest Ohio, and then again south of Allen County into Wells County. And I'm just still seeing these signs, just getting pretty close to just to the north of Lynn Grove and south of Pinedo, where we are seeing perhaps an indication of a little bit of broad rotation. That's something we've got to keep a really close eye on. So again, right on State Road 1, north of Pennville, between Pennville and Pinedo, we are seeing the potential at least for a little bit of broad rotation. So a tornado warning has not been issued for this area. I would just treat it as if it is one. If you're in southern Wells County, okay, this particular storm system, the cell, moving north and eastward at about 65 miles per hour. So it's going to make its way essentially into Adams County, central Adams County along US 33 within the next 20 to 30 minutes. Now, I know that our weather system kind of picks out a lot of subdivisions, areas that may not look as familiar as just actual towns, but the reality is that as this moves through central and even northern Adams County, those strong wind speeds could be realized, as well as perhaps some further rotation. But it's tough to say given how quick and brief these signatures can be. In fact, it looks like now with the latest radar imagery, that little bit of rotation seems to kind of be weakening as we speak. The tornado warning has been expired for Defiance and Paulding counties now. If we go back to all the active warnings in the area, the good news is there are no active tornado warnings. This is the warning right here that will be expired here. Well, it is expired, but our weather system will take this off here shortly as the National Weather Service has pulled the plug on that one. But severe thunderstorm warnings essentially remain in effect south and east of Fort Wayne. North and west of Fort Wayne, there are no active warnings. But wind continues to remain quite strong. But it's the snaking line east of Fort Wayne into northwest Ohio, and then south of Fort Wayne through Decatur and Jay County that I'm most concerned about, producing perhaps some embedded tornadoes and some very high wind right there, right along that line. So that's what we're going to continue to watch. Before we let you go, we wanted to make sure that that line can pass through without incident. But I fear, especially given what we know that these storms have the capable of producing, that there could still be some damage reports yet to come. We do have a report of a roof collapse reported near Maysville and Stellhorn. We have a photographer heading there right now. This is the very area that we had pinpointed as seeing rotation. Also, there was a debris signature in that general area. We had mentioned that about 30 minutes ago. So, you know, this is something that we don't. We wish we wouldn't have to report. You know, we like these things to be merely just radar indicated events and nothing that actually ends up coming to fruition as physical evidence of a severe storm. Exactly what's caused the roof collapse is obviously due to high wind. Now, whether it's the rotation of a tornado or a straight line wind remains to be seen. But we've gotten plenty of reports at this point of storm damage, power outages, poles down, cars flipped off of roads. I mean, this has been a wild night of storms, especially given the fact that the air mass, the dynamics, just haven't really been conducive for storms of this nature in a very widespread way. So can you imagine, you know, if we saw a little more sunshine and stability today, we could be looking at a far more dire situation locally. So it's a good thing, really, that the system's been moving in as late as it has, but nonetheless, it's still leaving its mark in some dangerous ways, bringing with it some considerable property damage, you know, tree limb damage, power outages, and things along that line. We are getting a spotter report near Clear Lake, Steuben County, estimated 50-mile-per-hour wind speeds right now. This would be at 12:07. So yeah, that's of course beyond the severe lines. That makes sense that we are seeing some getting lighter wind reports beyond that snaking line of storms that's now passing through Adams, Jay, and Paulding counties. Okay, let's go back to our correlation coefficient tracker. Not seeing any, good thing, not seeing any major signs here. Spotter reports power out at Clear Lake in Steuben County. Now I'm looking, of course, in Wells and Adams County, doing a little investigative work here to see if we're noticing any signatures or signs that there could be any advanced or developing rotation or high winds. But it does appear that what little rotation we've been seeing is kind of going in and out and likely quite broad and upper level. But that's why we continue to check in, just make sure that things haven't really changed. There are no active tornado warnings in the 21 live viewing area right now, but there are several severe thunderstorm warnings, and we expect those to be in place through with the at least the next 20 to 30 minutes. You still see that tornado warning in northern Paulding County. But the National Weather Service has expired that. Our max weather system can sometimes be a little slow to take those off. So, again, this has been expired at the present time. But Allen County, heavy rain, some strong wind now. Whitley County seeing some of that as well. Off US 224 in Adams County, Road 300 West, just some pea-sized hail. So that's another piece of good news. Small hail. Lower wind gusts indicate, of course, a weakening line of storms. Not to say that they couldn't somehow strengthen, but this snaking line of showers and storms is now entering a fairly hostile environment for continued storm growth and development. So that's why I remain fairly optimistic that we will see improving conditions even farther east. But still, Van Wert County, you are still under a severe thunderstorm warning, and the same goes for Decatur, Hartford City, Portland. Excuse me, not Hartford City, Bern, Portland, all of these areas are still right along that line of what I would expect to be the strongest wind gusts. I would give it another 10 minutes in Decatur, Bern, Portland, and those strong wind gusts will be to the east of you toward northwest Ohio.